They knew it didn't look as if they were there for just a night or two, what with a couple of suitcases, the child on Rose's hip wearing half the clothes she had to her name, and a tension in their voices that might as well have announced to everyone in the tea shop that they were not, in fact, on a bit of a holiday. The proprietor gave them a broad smile when they entered her establishment, which was a good start, Rose thought. She had noticed the spotless shop, and that the woman was wearing a clean, starched pinny, with the only indication that she was rushed off her feet being a single errant curler left in her hair. And people weren't always welcoming in the country when they heard an accent or turn of phrase that screamed, "We're Londoners." Still smiling, the woman looked them up and down and nodded, beckoning them aside and adding that by chance she had a spare room she could let them have for a few nights, and could put out a breakfast for them into the bargain, perhaps even a supper, though she'd need their ration books. They had to be off the premises during the day because there were customers to consider, and she didn't want anyone hearing heavy feet or a baby screaming above their heads while they were enjoying a cup of tea and a cream bun. That was all right with Jim and Rose. After all, they had a good few things to accomplish during the course of their country sojourn. Finding work was at the top of the list, and a place to live came next. Very much next. Lady Luck remained at their side. In short order, their new landlady, Mrs. Butler, told them a local farmer had just lost a worker, the silly old what's-it having ruptured himself so he couldn't do the job anymore. The absent worker was getting on in years anyway, so the farmer knew it was coming. And what with first losing men to the army, and then the land girls demobilised, she said it looked like Jim had turned up in Shacklehurst at the right time, because the farmer needed a hand with the cattle and sheep, and had let the word out that he was looking for a strong bloke who would put his back into anything asked of him. Mind you, the gossip was that every last job on the farm would be asked of him. The family walked 1.5 miles along the road and then on a woodland path through a few acres of pine forest to find Mr. Wicks, the farmer. He was a plain-talking man who took Jim inside the farmhouse and made it clear he would brook no shirking, adding, with a shake of the head, that an aversion to hard work was half the trouble with Fred, the worker who had ruptured himself. Old Fred had forgotten how to lift something heavy because every day of his working life he had done his best to avoid it. "No muscle, that was his problem," said Wicks, reaching across the table to feel Jim's bicep. He nodded approval. Jim swore he was as strong as an ox, that he knew cattle and sheep inside and out and could drive a tractor, driving being his specialty. Oh yes, driving was definitely Jim's specialty. An awful lot of blokes from his part of London thought well of his skill behind the wheel. Jim landed the job. A tied cottage went with it, though the 2-bedroom accommodation needed a coat or 3 of paint, and there were vermin to be evicted. That was nothing to Jim. He'd come face to face with pests who were a lot more trouble than a few rats or mice. As he emerged from the farmhouse, having shaken hands with the farmer, adding that yes, he'd be ready to start work at 6 the following morning, Jim opened his arms, ready to embrace his wife and daughter. "Nice work if you can get it, Rosie, and I've got it. And guess what? The missus in there needs a hand with a bit of cleaning a couple of mornings a week. You up for it?" Of course she was up for it. So there they were, settled, with no furniture, no pots and pans and no crockery. Then Mrs. Butler said she had some old china she could let them have. And by the way, could Rose help her out on Saturday afternoons, because it was when day trippers came out to the country and rolled in for a cup of tea and a cream bun or scones after they'd had a walk through the forest, which meant she was run off her feet and could hardly keep up. Jim worked Saturday mornings, so it all fell into place. He'd look after Susie when he returned to the cottage at 1 o'clock, while Rose brought home some pin money in the evening. Every little bit helped. Now they had a roof over their heads, they had work, and they would get the other...